Daniel, the break is over.
Yes.
The last one before Christmas. Firstly, how's everybody returned from it? Are you happy that everybody's in good nick and fit?
Good. Obviously, the Welsh play in a really good mood. Also one or two bit more disappointing results for some other lads, but the most important thing is no one came back injured. Everyone in a good mood. So I have all the players available. So not one player injured. So really good news. We had proper training a week. Obviously, also in the last week with the lads who were there. We had today the first time that we had the whole group back on the training pitch, and 48 more hours to prepare. And for that, everyone is in a good mood. Sun is shining today. It's still cold, but sun is shining, so can't complain too much.
And Dan James was somebody that was talked about at the back end before the international break. He's played, he's scored. Is he somewhere near where you need him to be now in terms of starting?
Yeah, I talked about him before. Is of course a topic, but I think also we don't have to speak about him, and also like not in a negative way at all. Everyone in this room knows that there is no one in this room who loves and supports Daniel James more than I do. It's more or less the first day I walked into the door here at Leeds United. My first decision was straight away. Someone had the glorious idea to send Daniel James out on loan, and he would be good enough to be one of our 5 wingers for the Premier League. By the way, for a side who was then sadly hopeless relegated. My first decision here was no, he will be a key player for us, for our team, also for our future. I was criticized a lot, also like in the last years, that why is Jadon Anthony not playing more, Largi Ramazani, or in the beginning even Mano Solomon or whatever. Yeah, because Daniel James always played, and I always supported him, and he was more or less the first one on the team sheet, because I know what he's capable of and capable to do. But it's also important that we must not forget where he's coming from. Anyhow, so we are right now playing in the Premier League, in the best league of the world, and there you have to be in your best shape and your best rhythm, and to have to judge also what really happens on the training pitch, and not just if he's just available. So he has missed more or less 4 months without a competitive game. He has missed the whole April and May of last season. June and July, there was not one competitive game. He was even injured during pre-season. And I still started him in the beginning of August, anyhow, because I rate and I love him so much. Yeah, first 2 or 3 games he started was perhaps not perfect, also understandable. And then there's another injury. So he was more or less out for 5 months. And of course, it's more or less like, then you can't expect that his performance is like he would be there in his full rhythm and fully fit and full of confidence. So I spoke even before the international break. I see him growing on the training pitch, and this is quite important for me. But of course, he also needs a bit of rhythm, and we can't just use the Premier League games to give him the rhythm. But on the other hand, he desperately needs minutes. So for that, on the training pitch and by short-term appearances, he has to find the confidence and his rhythm back. He's trying to do this. This is how it works. I was quite pleased that he had also right now 2 times 65 minutes on the pitch for Wales. Of course, against Liechtenstein, we play perhaps with all respect, but a different level, also on Premier League level. But he was in there also with end products. Anyhow, it's always good for the confidence. And these 2 games will be very beneficial. Will be very, very beneficial for him. And he's growing right now. And that's quite important, and for that, each and every minute, each and every training session helps. And of course, the longer he is in team training, the closer he comes to his best shape. So, there is this old saw or this old rule in football: as long as you are out injured, as long you need to be back in your best shape. I hope that it won't last that long with Daniel, because he was more or less missing 4 or 5 months, and I don't want and don't expect it will last 4 or 5 months till he's back in his best shape. So he's also an experienced player, but you see him growing right now. But we still can't expect miracles. And I watch him closely each every training session. I know what he's doing. He's building some confidence and some rhythm. And the last 2 weeks also to this 2 times 65 minutes were definitely also beneficial for him, and will be do me also many favors. Yes.
Is it the same message with Gnonto then?
Yes, of course, exactly the same. So I loved Willy Gnonto in the end of last season, top shape, scored many important goals. Yeah, but it's more or less the same with him. Sometimes we also forget, because he's so long with us, how young this young lad is actually is. Yes, and it's more like we have to be a bit careful, and this is also my job, to protect that we don't create an atmosphere and a culture here that is more or less like when we lose a game, that the players who didn't play are the winners anyhow, because it leads to an attitude that more or less like when you're not playing, then you hope more or less that the team is losing, because then you are the winner and are in the spotlight. And we have to be careful with this. Anyhow, we don't want to educate the players in this way. And I remember, so we started the season with Willy and DJ in the first games. Okay, there were perhaps not too many end products, and everyone was on their back, and then the other wingers were more or less the wingers. And right now, yes, we had 1 or 2 Pura games anyhow, and then it's more like the players who didn't play are the winners anyhow. We have to be careful with it, because otherwise we create a culture that the teammates who are on the bench or not in the squad are more or less happy once we are not successful, because then they are more or less the winners anyhow. And this is what I won't allow. I will be careful with this. And with Willy, it's exactly the same. He played the first 2 or 3 game days, everyone on his back more or less, like, because he didn't score, didn't assist. Then he was out 6 weeks injured. 6 weeks, and then also like 2 weeks back in training. More or less 8 weeks without a competitive game, and then we lose more or less a game away. Nottingham, and everyone is just saying, oh, Willy Gnonto, with him we would win each and every game. So it's important that we don't put too much weight also on the shoulder. So what you have to do after being out injured is more or less like, come on, gain the confidence back on the training pitch, show that you're ready to go, perform there. Then when you get the short-term appearance, then to use this to build some momentum and some confidence. So I can't allow myself to be driven too much by it's more like after a loss, all the players who didn't play were the winners. And I have to watch carefully after them and look after them, that they don't run into the next injury. Willy had calf problems, was out with them for 3 weeks, and 2 hernia surgeries. I'm glad that he's back. I'm glad that he had a little mini preseason right now, and he's back available. But let's not expect that right now players who haven't featured because of injuries in the last weeks, they will win the game for us all alone. So we are a side who will be successful on this level if we stay united, like our name says, if we stay together, if we think more about the side and not about individual players. We need players who are ready, who are fit, who works their socks off and give everything. And I watch carefully in training once a player is ready to do this after a long-term injury. And we can't rush them into a team just because they're available. I can't allow myself to be driven too much by my wishes or my thoughts. And everyone knows how much I love Daniel James or Willy Gnonto. But this is the case. I have to be careful, especially on this level.
Daniel, you returned to Elland Road,
yes,
where you've been pretty successful so far this season in the main. You're on track with your points total. But what would you say to the criticism that just lately the side has looked like one that's almost waiting to lose rather than taking the game to the opposition?
Nothing really, because I am not out and I can't waste 1% energy to do some whatever self-marketing or self-PR anyhow. So if you have followed our way, how we work since 2.5 years, you know exactly what we are doing, what we try to do, how we approach a game, and how we try to be successful. And this won't change at all. And yes, if someone wants then to be negative anyhow after 1 or 2 games anyhow, it's not like with a speech or a fiery speech anyhow, I will turn their heads. The only thing is more like results and good hard work. Overall, I would say it's normal when you have 38 game days. You always have ups and downs and good performance and perhaps a bit worse performances. I would admit that I think it was perhaps our bit poor spirit of the season, the last 2 away games. And I think it's a fair criticism also to mention this, but it's also my job is to be there to protect my players anyhow, because I work for a club who is so, where everyone cares so much about the club and who's so passionate, and we are a club who polarizes. Either you love this club with all your heart, Leeds United, or you have to be a bit careful, it's exactly the other way around. And if we have perhaps a poorer game or poorer period or like back-to-back away losses, I know that everyone who is the other way around from the outside world will try to provoke us and will try to tear us apart and divide us and make sure that Leeds United don't go further on united. So everyone from the outside world tries to provoke this club. And I have too much passion, I have too much love for this club. So in this moment, I make sure that no one is in the back of my players, no one criticizes my players too much. I know sometimes I can make my job also easier and speak about, okay, after a loss, for example, or a poor result, I also sometimes got the feeling, I also want to criticize a bit more, want to speak about what we could have done better a bit more. But I have to calm myself also a bit down because the outside world is doing this anyway, and I want to be then there for my players as a shield anyhow, because what is never in doubt. And you can never question the passion and the desire that these lads are defending this club and trying everything in order to be successful. Yes, and it's quite normal that sometimes even these lads over the course of 38 game days have a bit poorer period or a bit poorer length of results, and could be also sometimes back-to-back losses in away games. But for me, it's also important, like, to back them and to be there for them, and then to be there like a shield, and to make sure that we go with positivity into the next game, and that we are not scared. It's more like that we are brave and go out and press higher than we did in the last two games and play with a bit more courage than we did in the last two games. Of course, I was not happy with this, but they have delivered so many good performances so far. So for that, I'm struggling a bit to criticize this even a bit more. And for me, it's always like after a bit poorer results or poorer performances, it's more like, you need to show reaction in these terms, but also to stay positive and to go with this with courage and bravery, not like being scared anyhow. So this is what I want to make sure, and for that, it will always be our DNA to bring the game into the opponent's half, to try to be proactive. Yeah, it's fair to say the last two away games we were not at our best in these terms, but we're playing in the best league in the world. And if you have a day where your key players are not performing on the top level, then we don't have the individual quality to be the better side. So we always have to perform on our top level. And if there is a poorer day, then we have no chance to win points. And this is what we want to make sure. We stick together, we return back to our best behavior, and then we have also a chance, also in the upcoming difficult games against top sides. So if we are at our best level, then we definitely have a chance.
Yeah, everybody's talking about the run ahead of you, Daniel, but you've got to play them all at some point. Yeah. You said earlier this week the biggest pressure you faced was when you arrived and the task you had ahead of you. But when you're going through a difficult time like right now, or a relatively difficult time, how hard is it for you to hold your nerve and keep believing in what you're doing?
Not hard, really not hard, because once you sign a contract for Leeds United as a manager or as a player or as a staff member, you know the pressure is on from the first day you start working, because it's a big responsibility to represent this club and lead this club to success. And I've spoken several times about this. This is the most passionate club, probably not just in the UK, but all in whole Western Europe anyhow. And this is the biggest asset of us. This is the real strength. This is why we have such an unbelievable home record. I think just one loss in the last 14 months, because we have made out of Elland Road a fortress. And our biggest asset, our biggest strength is this passion anyhow. We want to be like this and don't want to be in a different way, like this at this club. And of course it comes also along with expectations and also with if you want with pressure anyhow. But for me it's more or less like I just have the desire and this heart to defend this club and to be there and to be successful and to establish this club on the top level anyhow. And for that I have the same feeling. So the fire, believe me, the fire is also still burning inside. I'm more or less a Leeds United supporter, and after a loss, I don't want to go out of bed. And after a win, and I would like to celebrate it. But in my job, you can't afford to do this. I can't be over the moon after a win. I have to stay humble. And after loss, I also can't be too down, and I have to make sure that we are not too affected anyhow by the negativity that also the outside world wants to bring into us. So I'm just fully focused and concentrated on leading this club with stability. And if there is a bit pressure or someone wants to be negative, for me, it's not a problem. I don't feel pressure myself because I know no one means it personal anyhow. It's more like when there is a bit negativity, just because, even if it's from our side, from our inside, it's more like it's just because everyone cares so much about this club and not out of a negative ambition anyhow. So I never would take it personal, and I feel more or less the same. But in my job, I can't afford to be the same. So I have to stay leveled. I have to stay humble and have to make sure that this doesn't affect the players too much. Because overall, when I look on the longer picture anyhow, I know what they're doing. I know the workload they put in each and every game. They have so far outperformed the opponent physically. We are top fit anyhow. We give everything. We are not always at our best level. Yeah, that's fair to say. And if you're not at our best level, then we don't have just the unbelievable quality to beat opponents, and we lose games on this level. But I'm 100% convinced of this group, of the mentality of the group, and that if we return back to our best behavior and make, again, out of our home stadium, Elland Road, again further on a fortress, we have all chances to win enough points to stay in this league. So I see why there is criticism after the last two games. We were pretty self-critical as well. But it's also like I have to say, after 11 games, we were not one time in a relegation zone anyhow. And if we keep going also with this attitude, we have a great chance also to finish above the line and to stay in this league. And this is what we want to make sure.
Daniel, when you talk about drowning out the noise and the players having a chance to get away, play on international duty, have the international break and potentially pressing the reset button, you've just said there, you do have the players as a team that can compete in this league. You've never been in the relegation zone so far this season. So 11 games in, I know there's disappointment with the last two performances. What's your assessment of where this group is and where it can go?
I'm more or less asked after each and every game day how I assess the season so far. So, and I just can repeat myself, like you summed it up in a perfect way. Overall, yeah, 11 points after 11 games, not too bad overall. Never to be in the relegation zone. It's not too bad. I criticized after some really good performances that we should have been more clinical to take more points, because I was fully aware that there is also a period when we are perhaps not at our best level, and then automatically we will lose games. This is what happened away at Brighton and also away at Nottingham. So for that, if we would have get all the points that we normally would have deserved of our performances, we would cruise nicely along on whatever 15, 16 points. Everything would be a bit easier. Yes, right now the gap is a bit closer, yes, but if you would have asked me before the season, do we have a season after being just promoted, after also the challenges that we had in the summer transfer window, where we cruise nicely along, never in danger, always a gap of 5, 6, 7 points to the relegation zone, we are just in mid-table, can even think about the top half, I would have said probably that's not realistic. Of course, I would prefer to have it anyhow, and it would have been possible if you would have won the games against Bournemouth and Fulham and Tottenham, Newcastle. We should have had more points anyhow. But I wouldn't have expected it would be like this. For that, I'm also not surprised, that right now we have perhaps a bit poorer spell, or the gap is a bit closer anyhow. So for me, it's just important that we are not right now just like a flag in the wind and let the outside world make us to be divided with finger pointing and this player and this staff member and this manager and this coaching staff member anyhow does something wrong. So we will just be successful with this group of players if we are more united than all the other teams, if we are more together than all the other teams, if we have more desire than all the other teams. Because in terms of individual quality, I guarantee you we won't win one game on this level. So we have to outwork them try to be also like always spot on in our tactical approach, what we're doing. We don't have the individual players who just decide the game all alone, like, with all respect, perhaps Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, and all the others have, and also Aston Villa has a few. So we have to make sure that we, as a group, are more united. And this is more or less like what is crucial for me. We've shown this during the first game days, and by doing this, we won many points. We were united also in the last 2 game days, but not at our best level. Yes, this is what we have to make sure to return back. And then we have also a chance, if we then look back, hopefully after the season, to speak about, we had a really good first season back in the top flight.
Let's talk about this weekend's opponents then, Aston Villa, because you have been competitive at home, more than competitive when playing at Elland Road. They're a team that have shown natural progression over the last several seasons, but their form at times this season has also been indifferent. So what do you expect from them on Sunday, and how will you set your team out to approach this challenge?
Yes, there's no doubt that Aston Villa is one of the top sides in this league. They play in Europe. They have a fantastic manager, fantastic group of players, many options, sitting in the top 6th on the table. I think in the form table they're even higher up. So with many good results. We know, again, we have to be at our very best level to give ourselves a chance. And then in a home game together with our supporters, we always have a chance. We know about our home record, but for that, we have to make out of this a tight game in the moments when we can create a chance and can score, that we are then clinical and effective. Then we have a chance, and we have to return back, and this is the most important topic, to our really rock-solid defensive behavior that we've shown in the weeks before, not in the last 2 game days, but in the week before, and this will be crucial. Also, like, to return back in our defensive behavior, also to the best level, and also against the ball, try to be a bit braver and more aggressive again. This will be crucial in order to give ourselves a chance.
Hi, Daniel. When you look at the goals conceded to players who were free in the box, have you identified a theme? Are they all just individual mistakes? Is it tactical or structural?
Cutback defending, normally a topic we're pretty good in, was the problem in Brighton, and this time around was a bit like not enough pressure on the ball in the build-up. So normally something that we've shown in the games before. So this is more or less, we were always compact, we were never really open, but the bravery also to go into the duels, to lead the duels, that was the first problem. And then obviously also how we defended then more or less across, and we have clear principles how we want to defend in the box. Don't want to name it to do too much name dropping or finger pointing. Everyone can analyze all the scenes, but I think it was also quite obvious. Obviously we were then not spot on, and this is also important to, without name dropping or finger pointing in public, also like to speak about this internally a lot. And also, the best solution is always work on the training pitch, to work on these topics on the training pitch, because this is what we've shown, especially in the first 7-8 game days anyhow. And then it's more or less, yes, it's a fact. I wouldn't say we have allowed too many chances for Nottingham, but somehow it's a fact they have scored 3 goals, and to concede 3 goals is too much to win anything in this league. So definitely we were pretty self-critical in this terms. We have worked on it, and let's hope the lads bring it in a better way on the pitch than they did in the last 2 away games.
You said you need to play with a bit more courage. What does that look like when you're in possession of the ball? In possession of the ball, it was also not that we were played out of the park. We had away at Brighton and away at Nottingham more possession than the opponent. And I would say it's normally not normal for a promoted side who goes to teams like Brighton and also Nottingham. They've qualified for Europe, and I think in the summer they've spent, if I'm not completely wrong, 240 million euros anyhow. So, but I wouldn't say we've dominated these games, because we had possession more or less like in areas where it doesn't count that much. We have played too much around the cake, if I can use this picture, and not like really like in areas and zones where we can create chances and make it happen. We have scored, of course, a fantastic team goal. This is more or less like exactly what we needed. We had then the pass also like into the center in the offense. Noah Okafor first kept the ball, then Brent Aronson was close to the striker, kept the ball, fantastic assist to Lucas, and Lucas, outstanding finish. But the gap between the striker and these positions was in the other games, or not in all the periods in the last 2 games. A bit too big, so we didn't bring our midfielders like Anton or AO before, and Sean more in this position where they can play the finishing pass and can be dangerous. And the same also with our wingers. We have to come a bit closer to the striker in order to create more. And this was a bit the problem. We had really lots of possession, but not the possession that really counted. And this is something we've also addressed. We have to be better in the areas where it really counts, and also to keep the ball better in more difficult situations. And this was also something that we have not just addressed, but also worked on the training pitch in the last game days. And hopefully we can bring it back on the pitch as well.
Hi, Daniel. You've mentioned several times about Leeds being an emotional fan base and the outside noise. I'm just wondering, do you ever speak to your players, whether collectively or one-to-one, about how to deal with the outside noise? And I'm particularly here thinking of sort of like the newer players and maybe the younger players as well. Do you ever chat to them about it?
Yes, but I also don't want to judge it in the wrong way. It's not like it's a bad thing if you are emotional or passionate. Not at all. So this is, I've said in each and every of my interview, the reason why I walked in and signed a contract is because I work for the most passionate club in the world, probably, or one of the most passionate clubs in the world. Because we have this unbelievable support, and you want to work for a club where it really matters. And I don't want to change one thing. I want our supporters to be over the moon, if you win, and dream about Europe, because this is what football is all about. And I want our supporters and everyone who is connected after a loss, and that we don't want to go out of bed and want the world goes down and we fear the worst anyhow. I don't want to change one thing. I just mentioned to the players, we have a job to do. We can't allow ourselves to be just passionate and just driven by our passions, because otherwise a day after a game I would show up, I would stay in bed, if I'm honest. Or after a win I also wouldn't show up because I would party the whole night anyhow. So no chance to do this. We have to make sure that we're not driven too much by our emotions. And this is what I mean. So it's not like if there is a bit criticism after poor performance or losses, doesn't let this in your head and in your heart. Play with bravery and courage, and not like, okay, I want to avoid mistakes. Come on, be brave, be ready, do mistakes, but play with courage, play with bravery. And also the other way around. This is quite important. And what to do is more or less like create together with our supporters and also with our group, more or less this attitude, it's us against the world. This is what you have to do if you work for such an emotional club. We have signed a contract here for Leeds United, and it's more like we are playing, not like, okay, well, always like a friendly and no one cares. And we have to represent this club, and you just can do this with being together, with bravery, and not like, okay, hopefully I don't play, that I don't make any mistakes anyhow. This is not how I want us to play football. I also don't want us to play football like players on the bench or not in the squad. They're happy if we're not successful because then they are the winners. I want a different culture. I want that everyone in my group is on it and desperate that we are successful. From the bench to support. From the players who are not on the game day squad to support. I want us to be one unit who is successful. This is, like I mentioned, it's our name, Leeds United. Just if we create this attitude, we are capable to be successful. This is what I also speak about with my players. We have to create an attitude. It's us against the world, Leeds United against the world, because all the other from the outside world who don't care about this club, after a loss or after a poor spell, they will try to provoke, they will try to divide us, they will try to bring negativity in. This is what we can't allow ourselves. We will just be successful. And this club had the most successful spells in the history whenever it was united. This is what we have to make sure.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you mentioned before how he brings so much to the game, and his other aspects is really contributed to the team. He hasn't scored in a little while. How important is it for him personally? Maybe I know he doesn't lack in self-confidence, but just to keep them scoring instincts, as you said before, flowing. How important is it that he does find the net?
Yeah, for offensive players, always good, and for the confidence, for the mood, and for everything. Also to deliver end products and to score goals. That's of course quite important. But again, also like I also don't want to create an individual battle there. So and to criticize too much for me, it's just important how many goals do we score as a team, and also like I don't just have one striker who should score goals. For me, it's always important that the amount of striker goals, Lucas, Dominic, Joel, also some of our youngsters, is on a proper level, or the whole amount of offensive players on a proper level. So we need then Brent Aronson to chip in. So good assist last game, good goal in the last home game. Noah Okafor already also on 2 goals and a few assists. So this is what we need. We need the whole group. As a promoted side, you will never have a striker who wins a golden boot. And this is also not important anyhow. Of course, I would take 20 goals for one of our strikers because then this one striker all alone has already the amount of goals that we need. But if we share it anyhow, if my offensive players here, they score 3 or 4, Lucas sometimes decides the game like against Everton, Dominic decides the game like against Wolves. Anyhow, this is what we need. Of course, I always back my strikers also to score goals, and I hope that they score. But for me, the most important thing is just that we are successful and that we stay in the league. And I'm not out for personal tally of goals for a striker.
Hi, Daniel. How do you decide when you want Lucas or the centre-backs to go direct to Dominic or to Lucas Metra in attack? Is there a certain rationale you have when you want them to do that, or is it important for you to play through the thirds and play on the turf as we've seen against Brighton and Forest?
Yes, we have our triggers, we have our principles, how to do so. And I don't want to speak too much in public about it there because I don't want to give too many informations or too much information away to the opponents. But this was also a bit the problem, if I'm honest, in the last game days, because Brighton, you normally expect them as a high intense pressing side, especially in the away game at Brighton. And of course, we made our plans in which moment we want to invite them and to bypass them high, more or less like to be a bit more direct, and then to use that they play perhaps man against man in the last row. Yeah, the problem is if you're 2-0 down after a few minutes, they change their whole progresses as more like, and then they don't open that much. They sit a bit more deeper. And if you can't invite them anymore and you have to do more for the game, you can't go more direct than we would perhaps normally do. Or the same against Nottingham. I was thinking, we go 1-0 in lead. I was thinking, great, this plays into our card. Anyhow, right now, Nottingham has to open a bit more because they're normally not a side who goes into the pressing. But if you're 1-0 down in a home game, you have to go a bit more for it. Yes, but sadly, after 60 seconds, they equalized. And if we could have transported the lead, this more like you stretch them more, they go more for 1-against-1 in the last row, and then you can go a bit more direct, for example, into the striker and bypass a few stages straight away. And the problem was, especially in the last 2 away games, it was not possible anyhow, because Brighton, pretty early, they were 2-0 up, and we had to do more for the game, and they went more for counterattacks. And because we were just 60 seconds in lead, Nottingham didn't change the way they played. And especially after they went in lead, yes, then it was more like 5 at the back, and then it makes no sense just to put long balls into their face, because then they're in too much overload. So, of course, we have our triggers during the game, but it always depends also a bit on the story of the game. If you're, for example, 2-0 up, like after 50 minutes against West Ham, and they have to go a bit more for it, then we can go more for direct and can be quicker in our attacks. So in football, all topics are connected, and together we have our triggers, our principles, but it always depends also on how the game is going and on the scoreline.
You mentioned there's obviously been a bit of external pessimism generally about performances and results, and around Thorpe Arch. I think even after the Forest game, you said, we're not panicking inside. We don't feel the same way many of you feel. So when you are around Thorpe Arch, do you sort of actively intervene in kind of trying to G the players up and trying to block out that pessimism, or do you trust them to block it out themselves?
Yes, if I have the feeling I have to act a little bit, I do this, and we must not forget that we still work together with a relatively young human beings. It's not like we just have teenagers around, but it's more like if you're in the age like Willy Gnonto or Noah Okafor in your early 20s, mid-20s, it's still not like, okay, you can block everything out. And especially for our new signings, if they experience the first time how big this club is and how much outside noise there is. And also, again, it's a club who polarizes, and everyone tries to provoke then a little bit who doesn't like this club and tries to provoke something. And yeah, there was not much to criticize in the last 12 months last season, also not in the beginning of our season right now. It's more like when the haters come out and want to provoke a little bit the outside world. It's the first time that they also feel then a bit negativity, and it's important then to protect them and to make sure that they don't lose their bravery and their courage. This is something that we need anyhow. A Leeds United side has always to play with courage and has always to be brave. We can have also days when we don't have our best performance, and we can also lose games. If we promote to the Premier League, sorry, we have to be ready that we probably will lose more games than we win games. It's difficult, I know this. But it can't affect too much the way we approach a game. And I got the feeling a bit like in Nottingham, the Brighton loss has taken a bit courage away and a bit bravery away. And this is why I was a bit annoyed with that. We didn't play with, okay, come on, we take the game on. It's more like we were scared to do mistakes. We didn't show under difficult situation. We didn't press that much like we normally do. And this is where you have to then to make sure to give them also a bit more encouragement and confidence, and also to speak about it, but also to have training exercises and sessions in order to force us back again. This is what we've done in the last 2 game days, last 2 weeks. Sadly, it's not a guarantee that we transport it to the next game day, but this is definitely the plan. So I want to play football with more courage than away at Nottingham, that's for sure.
Can we turn cameras off, please, as we go on to the embargo section?